Hey everyone, I'm Caryn Solomon, and welcome to What's IGN Crushing On, IGN Africa's official entertainment podcast. I'm your host, and I'm joined as always by my producer and editor Rebecca Barches. So this is a show where we discuss all things entertainment and pop culture with a new guest every week. We bring recommendations, news, and fun facts, sometimes touching on the more serious issues surrounding these topics. Welcome back. This week on the podcast, we are joined by Aqeelah Harron Ally. Aqeelah is a very, very well-known South African influencer, and she's worked in the fashion industry for about 10 years. She's really one of the most well-known influencers in the country, and she also has like a wealth of knowledge about film and TV. So this was a very important chat to have and a very exciting chat. So we're very gracious that she joined us on the show. But Aqeelah, we go way back with Aqeelah because we were at high school with her. And more specifically, not in the fact that like Snoop Dogg and Cameron Diaz were at high school together. We were like in the same class, like have shared memories. Rebecca, if you remember, we in our English class we had like a specific corner for the for the colored people.
The naughty, the dark corners of the English class. Miss Cootie's class, right? Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like Miss Cootie would always look to us when there was noise in the class. She would always be like, "You guys over there, could you please turn it down?" But yeah, the dark corner is what you called it, right? Meanwhile, you were so light of complexion, it's ridiculous.
Dark in
yeah. Yeah. No, but Aqeelah, like, yeah, we had some good. So I have some good. Of course, you also have your own memories of Aqeelah, but I do remember her showing up to the Matric dance, and just having the most stunning gown. And I still have this picture on my Facebook now, and it's still so stylish and still so, yeah, like she always had a sense of style that I admired. And so it obviously makes sense that she is so successful and has made such a success of what she is doing. So big ups, Aqeelah.
It is honest. It's like it's great to see like people that you knew young who had potential or talent. Just seeing them succeed in life is so amazing. Like
makes the heart warm.
It really does. And it's like it's just been I feel like it's been like a long journey with her, and it's so great that she could be on the show. The show that's like a labor of love between us two high school friends and another one of our high school friends joining us is just amazing. So we basically we talk about her career and the very unique journey that she took to get to the point where she is today. And we speak I don't even know what else we spoke about. We spoke about Game of Thrones, Snowpiercer, ek weet nie wat anders nie. But yeah, it's just keeping up with the kind of Samis. It's a lovely chat. She's a lovely girl. Here's our chat with Aqeelah. Hi Aqeelah, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you? It's so good to be here.
I'm great. So how has this very chaotic year been for you?
You know, in the beginning, I didn't want to admit that it was a hard year. You know, like everyone was going, 2020 is the worst, and now 2021 is going to be just as bad. And I was just like, no, don't say that, you know, and I was just trying to keep it positive, Patty, but yeah, things did go down for me as well. It's definitely been chaotic, but I think it's also shown a lot of us what we can appreciate in our own lives and shown us how strong we are and taught us to be grateful for the little things. So I think it was, I don't want to say necessary, it's the wrong word, but I think it was definitely enlightening, and it's going to make us all better people, myself included. Did I get very deep with that answer?
No, it is perfect.
Okay.
So the two of us go way back from Wamba Girls to UCT. It's been a It's been a while, right? And I always say, like, when I tell people I went to school with you, it's always like, oh, like a random person saying they were at the same school as like a famous person at the same time. And I'm like, no, we were in the same class. You don't understand.
Yeah. I still just remember our Harry Potter duels. Well, I think you were a spectator and you were like, I understand everything that's happening.
Such a
Funny enough,
nerd.
when I said to you, I'm going to turn off my camera, it's actually, I forgot about you and Harry Potter, but it's because I'm actually wearing my Harry Potter PJs and my gown right now, and I just didn't want you to see me like this. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm not one.
So we definitely go way back. I have a good couple of memories. I even remember, I was thinking about this the other day when you asked me to be on the podcast, and I cringed so hard for myself. It was that time I directed a play and you were the star of my play.
Oh,
Okay, we have an actual memory. Like, nobody must say we weren't at school together.
I completely forgot about that play.
Even me.
What is the play about? It was like it
Oh
was a
gosh, it
mother
was
and a
cheese
child.
balls.
Wasn't it something like that? Like child
Yeah,
adoption.
I just know your name was Skylar because
Is
I
it?
know that. Yeah, I just remember being like 16 and thinking that was the most amazing name I'd ever heard in my life, and that was your name.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
I'm actually getting hot now because I'm cringing for something I did in high school, literally half our lives ago. So funny.
my favorite memory is actually from Varsity.
Mm.
But this is a weird thing. So there's this one movie I always think of you when I hear about. And it's Requiem for a Dream.
Oh yeah, that movie is so hectic. We had to watch it for, I think it was in first year
Mm.
film.
Y-
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's like a part in the movie where like Ellen Bernstein, where she's like Bernstein, whatever, she's like, I want to be on television. And you kept on
Oh
saying
yeah.
that over, like for the rest of the week. You said that all the time.
I'm gonna be on television. I
Exactly.
remember it, and I'm gonna wear the red dress.
That's exactly.
That movie messed me up, man. It was the Aronofsky movie. I remember so clearly. Like, the way he told that story was insane. You felt like you were on drugs watching that movie. It was
Oh,
brilliant.
I don't think I could
But
ever watch
yeah,
that movie again. Like,
no,
I think,
same. I think a lot of it I used to look away actually because it was so hectic. Yeah.
oh, and the last scene with Jennifer Connelly.
I know which one you're talking about. I was like, but that's the one I'm putting out of my mind. And I sometimes, like, I watch the show now. Okay, I finished it recently, season 2, Snowpiercer on Netflix,
Mm.
and she's in there, and I just sometimes that scene just like comes knocking on the door, and I'm like, nope, put it out of my mind, put it out of mind. And then the more you know, when you more you think, don't think that, and then you think it. Worst ever.
But yeah, before we started recording, you were telling me about this keeping up with the Kandasamis thing you did. So tell me more about it.
Okay, so I was just working on a campaign now with Netflix where we basically had to create content around the new Keeping Up with the Kandasamis movie. So it's part 3. And so I'd watched the first movie and then I hadn't watched the second one, but I loved the first movie when I watched it a while back. And so I had to watch the second one as research for the third one that was coming out. And it was so funny because I remember, when we were all studying film and media, we would sit in the library and everyone else would be like sitting with their computers and their thick readings, and we would be sitting at the TVs and we'd just get to watch movies. And that was the best part of studying for exams, is there would be like 10 movies you had to watch. But obviously we had theory, to everyone listening. We had theory, and it was like all to do with a certain genre and a movement and whatever. But basically, everyone used to be so gels secretly because they would walk past us and we would be watching movies. And that was how we would study. And that's what I felt like I was doing the other day, because I had to watch Keeping Up with the Kandasamis, and I just thought, wow. And they said this would never be my career. They said I'm going to get nowhere by just watching movies. But it's working for me. It's been like, no, when did we graduate? I don't know about you. Did you graduate the same year as me?
I graduated
2010.
2010, yeah.
Yeah, so it's more than 10 years on, and she's still watching movies. It's working out.
Same.
She's still wearing Harry Potter clothes, and it's working out.
I remember that one spot, like if you sit in the library where the TVs were and
Hmm.
your TV faces the stairs, that was the worst
Yeah,
spot because everybody could see what was on your screen.
I
And
know.
and there was a one film, I think it was third year, it was like a South African film, and like there was like a gay section.
Proteus.
Was that one?
Yeah, Proteus.
I could never. Yes, and then I think I was watching that, and like everyone could see me, and people were like, "What's this girl watching in the middle
That
of?"
movie was hectic. Can I tell you a funny fact that I learned about that movie after we graduated? So my mom has a half brother that she only met like when she was like much older, like when I was already in primary school, and I even only met him once, and he lived in PE and whatever. Anyway, so he's a really well-known costume designer here in South Africa, apparently. And so it turned out he did all the costumes for Proteus,
Oh
and I only
wow,
found out afterwards. And I did my whole mini thesis on the costumes, and meantime, as my own uncle. How weird is that?
that's so cool though. That's like
So
fate.
crazy, right? And now I was thinking, yo, I could have scored a liquor interview, but I didn't. Got an extra point. It didn't happen.
Ew, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's talk about your very unique career journey
Mm-hmm.
because
Oh,
it's you're like oh, but it's so exciting and it's so interesting and it's so different. So
yeah.
take me through how it how it happened for you.
Sure, if I can remember all the steps. Okay, so I remember you obviously studied with me, and so like the media that we used to learn at UCT was very politically driven. Just
Mm.
everything was about what Jacob Zuma was doing, and it was analyzing the Sapiro cartoon and all of that. And it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. I think everyone knew I was always really into fashion, and
Mm.
I was more creative, and I wanted to have my own voice, I guess. And yeah, I think I mostly wanted to go into fashion though. I wanted to go and work at a magazine, much like what you actually went and did. But I think more like in the fashion department.
Mm.
So that was always my goal. And I thought, how can I do this? I wouldn't even know where to start. So blogs were kind of a thing internationally then. And I remember being in the Leslie Social Building, and I started my blog. And it had a million name changes, and I did all different kinds of things. And sometimes I wrote about movies, and sometimes I wrote about fashion shows that I'd seen. And then I started posting like one or two outfits here and there. And I was so shy to even do that because it wasn't like posting a picture on Facebook. It felt like
Mm.
way more. I don't know. I was scrutinizing myself a lot more. But anyways, when I would do that and then share it on Facebook, the views went up so much more. And I joined this other platform called Lookbook, which was almost like the Instagram of fashion back in the day. And it was very big in Europe. And then my blog started gaining more traction, and blogs became a bit bigger then. But there was still absolutely no industry whatsoever. And then I graduated. And what did I do after graduation? After graduation, I worked for a stock photography company as a stylist, actually. They just took a chance on me, which was very weird, to be honest, because when I look back, I had no idea
Mm.
what I was doing. So I worked for them for about 6 months, 6 or 7 months. And at the same time, I had my own vintage clothing label. So I would thrift things at a really low rate. And then my mom and I would like fix them up, and we'd sell them online, well, over Facebook and things like that. So that was like sort of my beginning journey, I guess, officially in fashion, where I was a stylist and I had my own like vintage label. And all the while, I kept blogging and figuring out this blog thing. But to make money off that was completely unheard of. It was just,
Mm.
I didn't even know you could, I don't even know why I did it. I think it was just a fun, like, hobby sort of a thing that I liked doing. And then obviously I was broke a year later because, I mean, these things weren't that sustainable, and the stock company was still in its trial phase, and I don't think they were doing that well. So after about a year and a bit, I didn't have a sense of direction, and then I actually got an internship at Associated Press. So I was the fashion intern at Marie Claire for 6 months. And then I thought to myself, okay, this is my foot in the door. Like something's definitely going to open up in one of the other magazines. I'm going to hang on for dear life. And I hung on and I hung on and nothing opened. And, and then I was back at that point where I thought, where's this going? What are you doing with your life? Because you can't also be an intern for forever. And during my internship and just kind of in the year before that, so my dad hadn't given me like a big 21st present or anything. I said to him, I didn't want a 21st. I said, when we can afford it, can I please just go and visit my aunt in London? And then it was basically, I think, a year or more after my 21st. And I'd saved up a little bit of money. And he said, okay, if you pull it together, you can go. So I went. Meantime, I don't have a job or anything. And I went to my aunt and I stayed with her for a month. And then she also took me to Rome because she doesn't have kids. And she said, if you come here, I'm going to take you somewhere nice. And that's also going to be your belated 21st present. And she took me to Rome for about 3 days. And we just had like this amazing bonding trip. And just that trip really just changed my life because it just showed me there's so much more to life. I saw all this whole other perception of the world of fashion and like how people incorporate it into their lives. I saw and experienced just things that I wasn't used to at home, and the travel bug really hit and it inspired me creatively. And when I came home, I thought, I have no money, I have no sense of direction, I have no job opportunities, and I just want to leave my parents' house and I want to go overseas. I want to be traveling. How can I do this? And my cousin just happened to come to my house that night and she was in Cape Town on leave. And she had just resigned from being a flight attendant, but she was going to be going back overseas because her husband was there. Anyways, she was just saying to me, become cabin crew. And I said, absolutely not. I would never do that. And every objection that I had about the job, she had an answer for all of it. And it just eventually did make the most sense. And I thought, my dad is never going to let me. And she's like, just let my dad talk to your dad because they're brothers. And he did. And then my dad eventually said, okay, fine, whatever. So I went for a year. And while I was there for a year, I saw about 40 different cities around the world. But I always made sure in every city that I was dressed up, basically. And I took my massive camera that I still had from university days because I did a seminar, a photojourn seminar. And so I had this great camera, which was nice. But I would document everything while I was there. And I would share it. And so many people loved reading my blog because I would do these intense photo diaries and write-ups and just write about my feelings and, and if I could persuade someone to take a cool outfit picture of me, I would. And then everything just, in terms as far as blogs went, it got really popular. But again, money making was unheard of. And at this point, I was blogging for 3 years. Then I moved home after about a year. And when I came home, literally, I think I was home for like a week. I got my first paid job offer.
Sure.
And then I got another one. And then I got another one. And then but they were very sporadic and the rates were very low. It was definitely nothing that you could, make a lifetime living off of it or whatever. And I still didn't think I could. And so I went and I worked at an e-commerce store for like one of South Africa's biggest e-commerce stores. I worked there for 2 years and I was a copywriter. And then later I was promoted to social media manager. And I also did the copy for all the newsletters and helped conceptualize them, which was quite fun. I actually did enjoy that. But then in my last, I think 6 months to a year of working as a social media manager, I was getting so much blog work. But I still didn't believe in it. I didn't think that it was a thing, And this is also still blogs were major. Instagram is also coming up in the world. This was around 2014, 2015. And I still just didn't believe in it. But then I looked back at my records and I was like, wait, I am most months making sometimes double my salary, and I'm still at this job. But I saved the money and then I traveled some more and I finally made like a plan, and I thought, okay, I'm going to quit my job, and this is my backup, and this is my backup, and this is my backup. And it's been, I think, 6 years now, and I've never needed to use the backup.
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
so I've been working for myself since then. I mean, it hasn't been all, blogging, content creation. I did also work part-time as a makeup artist because I did a brief course in that. And so I did it for like on and off here and there for 2 or 3 years, just for some extra money, because you could make really good money off of weddings. But I stopped that about 4 years ago, I think. But it's all of this, the way everything has worked has given me insight into how to do things, whether it is working with travel brands and traveling, or whether it's been in fashion or beauty. It's been really awesome to see how these pieces of your life puzzle fit together when you are older. So that's just been a very brief but very long synopsis of my journey. I mean, I didn't even go into details of the last 6 years. The last 6 years has just been wild, but working for myself, which has been awesome.
But it's exciting. It's exciting how, especially how you say how the little things or the detours that you thought were detours ended up being part of the bigger plan.
Yeah, definitely. It's honestly crazy. If I think back, like I said, I just had that weird full circle moment where I thought about how we were watching movies in the library, and I'm doing it again. It's really funny how life works, I also realized that whatever I did in my life for like the last 10 years, I would always try and work fashion into it somehow. So whether I was cabin crew and creating content while I was in whatever city, and mind you, we're only in the city for 24 hours. So you want to experience things, you want to look cute, you want to make content, you want to do all these things, and you must sleep before your flight back, because you got to work the flight back. It's just really crazy to see how it all fits together eventually.
But as you're saying, you fit fashion into everything, not to go back, but I specifically remember a time that you took a men's Spider-Man or something like that pajama top, and you turned it into a halter top, and I thought it was so amazing. It was
really? Did I do? Oh my gosh!
And I was like, I really like your halter top. Where did you buy it? And you were like, funny story, this.
I always have a story with my outfits. Always.
It's a men's, and I feel like I told so many people about it. That's why I remembered it, because I'm like, oh my gosh, Aqeelah had on this top today. She took out a men's pajama top.
Oh, I do remember. It wasn't Spider-Man, it was Superman. Superman. I do remember it. I actually did. It was blue.
Yes.
and then I told everyone, I was like, no, you just cut up your t-shirt like this. And then it was literally like that Regina George moment when they cut out the boobs. Because then this is in first year, I remember. And then everyone started cutting their tops like that. And then when we became orientation leaders and they put us in those ugly ass tops, those t-shirts, I was like, hell no, I'm not wearing this. I'm cutting mine and reworking it. And I just remember this. I don't remember what the professor's name was that was in charge of it. And she was just like, why does your top look like that? And then everyone's tops look like that. Just so, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. How funny. But one thing about me is that all of my outfits, whatever I'm with, there's always a story. It's very rare. Okay, it's not rare. I'd say about 40% of my outfits, if you say, oh, where's that from? It'll be from some generic chain store or whatever. But there will always be a story. It will always be, oh my gosh, I've had this thing for 10 years. It will be, oh my gosh, I paid 5 Rand for this at a thrift store. Or it will be, I wanted this for so many years and then I finally manifested it. There's always a story. There's always some elaborate story. It's quite funny.
But if you think about when you started out as a blogger, I mean, there was quite not a big group, but there was a group of you guys. But there's not a lot that are still around today, making it work. So how do you think you were able to sustain your brand?
I have no idea, to be honest with you. I just think that I always knew that my path looks something like this.
Mm.
I just didn't have the words for it or knew or know like what it was. Because like I said to you, I always wanted to work in a magazine. And the funny thing is, even when all the signs were showing years ago, magazines are going down and you are in the right place right now that you're supposed to be, I would still apply for these jobs and I would never, sometimes I wouldn't even land the interview. And then I would meet other girls and they would be the fashion assistant or a fashion director. And I would literally be so sad and think, wow, what does she have that I don't? I've got my degree, I've got so much experience. I can do this. Like, I know I can do this. I've got an internship in the bag. What is wrong with me? And it just wasn't meant for me. That's just all it is. It just wasn't meant for me because, my path was similar, but also so different. And now I end up being in the same spaces and doing very similar things that I would have done. It's not obviously exactly the same, but I mean, I learned so many lessons as an intern, working at Associated and working at Marie Claire, how to put together your own shoot, how to deal with clients, what happens when you go to events. My first events that I would go to, they were on behalf of the magazine. And so when I stepped into that space myself, it wasn't all new for me. So it really helped me along, And this was obviously supposed to be my path because digital became the future. So, yeah, but I still get sad. I love magazines. I would still buy them. That's
Yeah,
the thing.
me too.
It's just something beautiful about a glossy print,
Yeah. Now I have to pay so much money for international ones.
And it's so sad. I mean, if you see, this is very off topic now and a bit more serious, but I don't know if you saw the article that the sponsored article that the New York Times did recently, where they condemned Dua Lipa
Yes, I saw
and
that.
Bella Hadid and Gigi Hadid, and it just told me, wow, if the New York Times is printing this, then you are sickling. You are really desperate right now for money. It's very sad. And that your integrity can be bought to such a degree. Yeah. But I still wanted to be in print so badly. It's just what you dream of growing up, That's our generation. We got to be, we know time before technology and then we know technology. So
it is exactly
very
that.
hard to shake.
And it's like the I suppose it's also like the stigma that came with digital as not being as, as prestigious as print, but whereas print has been declining for a long time. But I do
The thing that
no, carry on.
the thing that one thing that I learned about digital, Robin Khan actually taught me this when she started a fashion trend, because I forgot that I was at a fashion trend for a while as well. I was the beauty editor there for a year. But something that she taught me was, the beauty about the digital space is that there's just room for everyone, and there's not this hierarchy anymore.
Yes.
And there's not this, you have to fit a certain box and you have to be the skinniest and the prettiest and the whitest to achieve something here. You can have a voice, you can have your space, whatever size it is. And, we can collaborate and we can make money together and we can uplift each other. And it's beautiful. And I just remember thinking, wow, I'd never heard of this before. And it was so crazy for me because I remember, I could say it now, the magazine's not in existence before anymore. But I remember when I was interning at Marie Claire, they would have me write for the blog sometimes if I went to certain events and things like that. And I noticed that when other people in the magazine, if they would write the article, they would, they would say who the article is by, and then the name would maybe click to their Twitter or whatever. So I did that for myself one day, and I was an intern because I saw everyone else was doing it. And I didn't make it click to my Twitter because I was barely tweeting, but I sent it to my blog and they were so mad. They called me in.
Sure.
And I wasn't I wasn't writing like scandalous things. It was actually barely anything. But they were so mad at me, and they were just like, you don't do that. And look, I really promise you, I was not writing anything, problematic or weird or whatever. It was, in fact, I don't even think it was much about me. At that point, I was reposting editorials that I'd seen from international people and, things that I saw in Vogue, things like that. It wasn't even personal. But they were just like, you don't do that. And I remember even asking Robin when I worked at AFF, can I do this? And she says, yeah, babe, you can do what you want. This is your space. And here we're so free and we're creative and we share and we uplift each other and your voice is your voice. And that's beautiful. And I was like, okay, cool. And I love that we can do that going forward as well. That is the better and the plus side about digital is, fashion and everything's been given back to the people, which is amazing.
It's so true. And especially with things like Instagram, because, anybody can start an Instagram account. You don't need to work for, I don't know, this magazine for 50 years and then to get the editor has to like you to get your stuff published. And
oh, yeah.
Because that's another thing. But, talking about what you were saying earlier about, magazines with print being able to be bought, like the one thing I've always admired about you is like, are you always like you honest with your audience, and you also use your platform to stand up for what you believe in, and I think that I don't want to say what set you apart from other influencers, because I don't like to say do this like you versus them type vibe, but I mean,
no, I agree. I fully agree. I totally understand.
But I do think like that's something that's especially okay. I think because I knew you before, I know that this is the person that you are, and it's great that the audience can also see, this is who you are, and you are honest with them, and you tell them when you're having tough times. So like is it difficult? Like how did you make the decision to do that?
It's for me, it's harder to hide that. And at the same time, I'm a firm believer that, sometimes tough things need to be normalized and they need to be spoken about, because the same way somebody feels seen for the good things that might be happening in your life, or the inspiration that you may provide, even if it's just you teaching somebody how to wear outfit, there are a lot of things that we all learn through tough times as well. So it's just, I don't even know how, it's normal. And I also find it very healing for myself, because even on my own, when I deal with things, I journal about it. It's the first thing I do, and it makes me feel so much better, and it gives me so much clarity. And sometimes I'll journal on my phone, sometimes I'll journal in a book, and sometimes when I journal on my phone, I think, you know what, I'm actually just going to put this in a caption, or I'm just going to do a story about this, because I just want to share it. It just felt like this massive mindset shift for me. And literally, there even been trolls in the comments will be like, oh, she just wrote this now because she wanted to say something deep for likes. And it's really not even like that. It's just genuinely a matter of, I had this moment and I really want to share it, because I think life can be hard enough as is. So if I can make your life easier by just sharing this, then cool. It's not going to make me hurt anymore. But also, there have been a lot of times where I haven't been perfect, of course, and it's also sometimes very hard to learn publicly or to be corrected publicly. But I'm also learning now, to always be open to learn, always be open to unlearn, always be open to hearing when you are wrong, and being open to discourse. However, you still don't have to take disrespect and crap. So there's a balance.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just an open book. I can't hide. I can't hide. I remember even, last year when I had my miscarriage, I first thought, I'm not going to talk about this. And then I ended up talking about it. And I didn't expect the support that I got. I didn't expect a thing, because I just knew that this happens to so many people. So I was really surprised by the reaction. I was actually very overwhelmed. And then I started to, get very worried, like, how am I going to repay everyone for their kindness? Because I didn't expect anything from it. It wasn't for sympathy, or I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to let people know that this happens and it's okay. Yeah.
But have you seen like a shift within like your industry and stuff towards being, I think, a bit more like real? Because I think in previous years it was all about looking perfect and being perfect.
Definitely. Yeah, no, definitely. I even fell into that trap. I think it was like that toxic 2016 year. I can see it, like everyone was face tuned. Everyone was just trying very hard. Everyone was just like grappling for, a piece of the pie. I remember that year, that the energy in that year was a lot. And yeah, it's definitely gotten better over the last few years. You can just see people are just like, nope, we're tired. We're not going to put 5 layers of makeup on now. We're going to just have skin. Skincare is in, It's something as simple as that, but art imitates life. And yeah, definitely, a lot more people are coming out and just saying, I'm not face tuning my body anymore. This is how crappy I look every day, and it's good. I'm glad, because I think, we also grew up with some very unrealistic standards. I mean, I remember in university days, I used to wake up super early every single day to either straighten or curl my hair every day for 3 years. And now I just don't care. But it's because I felt like I had to look good at uni every day. I don't know where that came from.
Well, I mean, so like, so what have you watched recently that you can recommend?
Oh, so many things. Okay, so I about 2 months ago we finished all 9 seasons of The Office.
Sure.
Absolutely brilliant. It's everything in life. I miss it so much. We also watched the mini series called The Serpent. Amazing. Will never accept a drink from a stranger or even someone I know ever again. If you know, you know. I also, like I spoke about Snowpiercer earlier, I really enjoyed Snowpiercer. And of course, we are now on season 4 of The Handmaid's Tale, which is brilliant.
Me too. It's
I
stresses
feel like
me out.
that's just going to say to you that I just sit there with my husband every week, and I'm like, I come here to enjoy a solid hour of anxiety. Why do I do this? But it's so good. Like, I just sit there, and for lack of a better word, you're just popping the whole time. The whole time, It's just like you just no, you. If I think, and if I hear the stories that June shares from previous seasons, like when she's telling us, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, I forgot we went through that together.
It's like it's just trauma after trauma.
And we like sickos, I just want to watch it, but it's just so good.
Even in this last episode where she was like reminding us of stuff that happened to Emily, and I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this.
Yes. So the thing with Emily also, and that aunt, and then they said, what did the aunt do to you? We're not giving spoilers, guys, don't worry. But when they said, what did the aunt do to you? And then she like retold the story, and I at first thought, oh, that must have been, behind the scenes or in some other time that they didn't show. And then afterwards I realized, I was like, no, they showed that.
Yeah.
They showed all of that. We've been through a lot.
I'm so glad it comes out week by week, because I can't deal with the binge, like stress, like go for hours and watch it, because it makes my anxiety too bad.
That's how I felt with The Serpent as well. Have you watched it?
No, I haven't seen The Serpent.
Oh, you definitely should. The way it's shot and everything, and the general vibes in the beginning, you're like, okay, cool. This is, I don't know how to explain it, but it's good vibes. Nice old cinema set in the 70s. Not old cinema, but older vintage. And then things just get so twisty, dark and twisty. It's a lot. I think there's only like 7 or 8 episodes.
I like nice short seasons. I shall give that a try.
It's on Netflix. I'm watching Halston now. There's only 5 episodes, and I think I've watched 3. It's
How are
my
you
load
enjoying
shedding
that?
show. It's good. It's good. I always love seeing people's creative processes.
Mm.
So it's really interesting to see, and to see his friendship with Liza Minnelli,
Mm.
and yeah, it's been good. I mean, I've only watched, like I said, I watched half basically, so I still have to get through the rest. I'm waiting for my next load shed, because then I just download and watch. So
I
that
really
will be my next 2 EPs.
I really want to watch. I like the reviews haven't been great, but
Mm,
I'm reading this book about like uh fashion and the Oscars, and
mm,
then I just read the section now on his team designing Liza Minnelli's Oscar out, like when she won Best Actress.
mm.
And I was like, oh, this man sounds so interesting. I should watch this show. But yeah.
I heard about Halston because about more than 10 years ago, I think it was when we were in high school, and it was like that Nicole Richie phase
Mm,
with Paris Hilton. But when she left the simple life, and then she got really thin, and then she became super stylish,
yeah.
when Rachel Zoe gave her that
Yes.
whole makeover. So Rachel Zoe used to put her and like Misha Barton and all the girls in Halston, and it was all the like that whole 70s vibe with the big sunglasses. So she would always dress them in Halston, and then obviously me being obsessed with what they were wearing, I just kept seeing this name Halston coming up all the time. And so I actually knew nothing about him. I just knew the name. And so when I saw the series, I thought, okay, let's check this out. And now I'm actually seeing how he made that very 70s look with the caftans and
Mm.
the sparkly jumpsuits and all of that. So you're actually seeing the origins, which is very cool, because I clearly remember a couple of famous Halston dresses actually.
So, what would you say is like your favorite movie ever?
Oh, that's a toughie. Um, I don't even know if I have a favorite movie ever.
What are you feeling today?
I have no idea. You know what, I'm a series binger, and I binge series on another level, I think. I don't know if it's normal. Maybe it is normal. But yeah, so nowadays whenever my husband says, let's watch a movie, I'm actually like, no, let's watch Parks and Recreation. So I don't even know what my favorite movie is. I'm sure I have one. Oh, it's one of my favorites of all time, actually, Chicago.
Mm.
It's the sparkle and the everything extra and the theatrics of it all. So Chicago is definitely one of them. Oh gosh, I can't think of what else.
No, that's
Don't.
good. Um,
Yeah, I think Chicago has always been my fave from back in the day.
so what would you say is like your favorite series ever?
My favorite series ever. Cheesy, but probably Game of Thrones. There's still just nothing like it. Even though the last 2 seasons were a great disappointment, we'll always have the first couple, the
Mm.
first 5, 6. That for me, there's just nothing like it.
It was an event. It was like a moment in time.
Sure. I had never watched them, and I think it was in 2017 when I think season 7 came out,
Mm.
and my husband wanted to watch it, and then I said, okay, fine, I don't have anything to watch right now. Let me just start the show from the very beginning. And I watched all of it in about 3 weeks, and then I finished just as season 7
Oof,
was coming out. It
that's
was
like the
good.
best.
It was good. Remember, we went on holidays and things, and I said, nope, we can't go for a walk in nature. We need to watch this in this hotel room or in this place, because it was very good. I also got my cousin to watch it for the first time ever about a month or 2 ago. She said, and she's a goody two shoes, but obviously being work from home life, she said, I called in sick for 2 days so that I could watch it.
My nephew started watching recently because like he couldn't watch. He was underage when it was first came
Hmm.
out, and now he's like 18. So he watched it
Hmm.
all, and he was like, but like this was like a year or it was sometime obviously after the last season had aired, and he's like, "Yo, Caryn," and he's like telling me things that like happen, and I'm like, "Yeah." I was excited about this about a few years ago. And it was
You know what's my other fave? I was so upset that Showmax took it off. It's Grey's Anatomy. Because I only started watching it last year in lockdown, and they took it off during lockdown. What type of sick people do this? No, really, I'm disgusted. The worst ever. I mean, I was only on season 6, and there were 16 seasons or 17 at the time.
Sure.
And I when I heard they were taking it off, there was like a little timer thing on Showmax that had a little countdown. Only 10 days left. When I tell you, I binged in that time because I thought maybe I can make it. But I couldn't make
17 seasons.
I know, and there's like 24 episodes per season. And I just saw a thing the other day, being renewed for another season. But now my cousin got me to do this VPN thing with Netflix, and then you get the Netflix US, and then you can watch it. But it's, yeah, I haven't watched in a while.
So, who was your first celebrity crush?
Leonardo DiCaprio. Didn't even have to think about it. I distinctly remember it. I bought the 4 postcard at Caryn. Didn't understand why. I just it was Romeo and Juliet era. Yeah, and then Titanic came after that, and then obviously we all just died. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Aqeelah, so much. This was lovely.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
That was our chat with Aqeelah. You can find at Fashion Breed on Instagram. Yeah, like, if you don't know her, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but this is a great opportunity to follow her. Like, as she says in the interview, she's very, very honest about her thoughts, about her experiences, about her life. So if you're not only interested in fashion, there's a lot of other things to follow her for. She's a very interesting person, and just hearing her talk about things that are important to her is beautiful. So yeah, give her a follow. Now we have a conversation with Nico Panagio. So
that I didn't know where that came from.
Rebecca, control yourself.
Sorry.
So this was a very lovely chat. I'm a big fan of Survivor, so it was amazing to chat to him. And he's just like, more than just the host of Survivor South Africa, he's just a big fan of Survivor. So you can hear the passion in what he's talking about. So we spoke about the new season and his favorite moments from Survivor. We also spoke a bit about the Survivor USA season 40 winners at war. Yeah, which I was like obsessed with. So we gave a bit of his thoughts on that. And of course, because we are the people that we are and we are the show that we are, we spoke about Laan and George Kyriakis, the love of our lives.
Oh, George.
I actually wrote a tweet a couple of years ago. I'm like, I'm not married yet because I haven't found somebody who makes me feel the way I felt when I first saw George Kyriakis on screen.
That is both beautiful and sad at the same time.
But yeah, he was just lovely and he was so gracious, and he chatted a bit about Laan and about that time, and lovely man. So yeah, here's a chat with Nico. So how are you? How has this chaotic time been for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy for everybody, hasn't it? I think we're all still in shell shock mode after 2020. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. I think how human beings are so resilient. We pick up, and then we move on, and we're like, all right, so this is what it's about. Let's just keep going, We might have been caught on the back foot a little bit, but it's amazing to see how people have bounced back, and are fighting back in terms of just getting their lives back into some sort of semblance of normalcy, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, we didn't think that a Survivor season would be coming this soon because...
Neither did we.
Because, I mean, we're so used to, like, you guys having to travel, and I was like, and under lockdown and everything. So how did this all come about?
Well, we were ready to to hit the 5 flights across the globe to our usual exotic destinations. The bags were packed, cast was ready. We were on our way out, and then of course the first. I think, what was it, 14 days was the first lockdown, right? That came along, and then that became 21 days, and then we realized, okay, there's something else going on here, and pretty soon it was postponed indefinitely. And so at the same time, though, our series director, LaRue, and our executive producer, Henry, they're not the kind of people get caught on the back foot. So they're always in some state of preparation for plan B, C, D, E, and all the way down to Z. So they had other ideas in the pipeline for in case we, got to do it locally. And so they'd send out scouts to do scouts for local locations, destinations. And when we did eventually get a green light from Mnet, we were good to go within weeks, which usually takes months of prep, So, when the going gets tough, the tough put various plans in motion and just hope for the best, which is what happened. And I think, and it's something I'm very excited about, I think people will realize that it doesn't matter where you shoot Survivor as long as it's tropical and lush, as is the Wild Coast where we filmed it. It's all about how you play the game. It's all about the contestants. It's about the theme of the season. It's about, it's about all those elements which are all present and at the same level as any other season we've ever done. So we're very excited for people to see South Africa as well showcased in the beautiful platform of Survivor.
Yeah, because we're so used to Survivor being in a foreign location, but there's just as beautiful, lush places right here, which is really cool.
Well, if you think about it, if the Americans or the New Zealanders or the Aussies were to come to Survivor and go to the Wild Coast to film Survivor, it would be for them this crazy, beautiful, exotic location with all the rich in culture and weird, freaky little insects and strange, scary snakes and I mean, when we go that side, we don't have to worry about sharks in the lagoon, which are thoughts that come to mind when you're at the Wild Coast, apart from the crazy weather, So in essence, it's just another crazy season of Survivor.
So what makes the season unique other than it being filmed in South Africa?
Well, the theme this year is the season is Immunity Island. And so we've taken an element of the show, which is immunity, which can have consequences, dire consequences, or really great consequences for the person who has it, for the person who loses it. And so immunity is such a powerful word because, and it's got nothing to do with COVID, by the way. The theme was coined long before we knew anything about what was going to happen in 2020. And so it's an interesting, ironic even kind of coincidence. But the point is that the theme is sort of accentuates an element of the game which causes consequences, which can affect not just the individual who makes the choice, but also the rest of the cast and the rest of the castaways in the game. And so you've got to think very carefully. In the game of Survivor, you can win or lose as a result of one silly mistake. And consequences are so important. And I think people don't realize in the real world how everything is a consequence of actions that single people or entities or collectives have taken, and the rest of the world then has to deal with whatever comes from that. And so it almost calls for accountability and responsibility, doesn't it? And so too do we do that in this season of Survivor.
So what is it about Survivor that you enjoy, personally?
Well, there's so many things, but I think what will pop into mind always when someone asks me that is the first thing is the journeys that every single person goes on. Because unlike other reality shows, which are quite different, Survivor is a journey that most people, when they leave this show, they leave better for it. They don't leave broken or crushed with, their tail between their legs. They may feel that for a couple of days because they've been voted out, but for the most part, what really the richness of the game, of the journey they've been on, only lands for them later on maybe weeks later, maybe months later, but it starts seeping into their soul just how life-altering Survivor is, because essentially it teaches you it reminds you of what's really important in life. We've become so lost in all the noise that we forget what really matters. We forget what really makes us wealthy, and it's not money. Let me tell you that. And when you've been without money for a while, or food or other things, you realize that's not what makes you wealthy. That's not what makes you rich. And I think that's what I love watching about the show, is the journey that each person embarks on, no matter where they come from, what their demographic is, what cultural background, religion, and outlook and perspective on the world is. When they get through this game, at the core of each and every single human being on this planet is a soul. And it's the same. We all have a soul. Our soul doesn't have a color, doesn't have doesn't have a demographic. It doesn't you can't tell the difference between one and another other than the person behind it. And it's the content of our character, and the game brings it down to that, the content of your character. And it's beautiful to see people discover themselves. That's what I love the most about this game.
So like without spoilers or anything, who are the contestants that you think people need to watch that they might underestimate?
Well, here's the other thing that I remind people of. Watch for the contestants that are the most open to adapting to whatever changes come about. And there are many. In this game, there are many changes all the time. It turns on a dime all the time, and you've got to be ready to move it, to ebb and flow with the game. I always tell them the game ebbs and flows. You've got to figure out when that's happening, and you've got to ebb with it, and you've got to flow with it. If you can figure that out, then you'll be able to find your own rhythm within the game. And every single person at some point reaches that point where they're at the ebb and they think, this is it, I can't go further, I'm broken, what am I doing here? And then usually the greatest ebb comes just before the greatest flow, and it's very important for people to keep their wits about them. And I always remind them, when it's the darkest night of the soul, that's just before, the wonderful climax that comes afterwards. So you've got to stay in the game. So watch for the players who, no matter what happens, they get up again tomorrow morning and they say, bring it. And I've got to say, we got a full cast of those this season. So it's going to be tough for people to pick favorites.
Oh, I'm excited. I love that. I love it when things change. Sorry. But what is your all-time favorite Survivor moment?
It'll come to me now, because there are some really poignant moments that stand out. But what is a great moment for me in every single season is when the family members come to visit, because that's usually the last handful of castaways that are left. They've been through sheer hell to make it to where they are. They miss home. They miss their loved ones. They are so raw because they've been in such a state of paranoia, because even their closest allies now seem to be turning against them, because we're nearing the end of the game. So their levels of paranoia are elevated to the max. And so what happens is, when they turn around and they see their loved one coming around the corner, they see for the first time in weeks someone that they can trust implicitly, someone who they know has got their back, who they know they can trust. And when they see that, it's beautiful, because they can't contain themselves. And that emotion often just brings them to their knees. You'll have the loved one rushing over and picking them up. And it's such a beautiful moment for me to witness, because it's real and it's raw, and it's and that's what it comes down to. That's bringing you closer to the end of your journey, where you realize, everything else is noise. What's important is my mom, my dad, my daughter, my son, my wife, my girlfriend, my loved one. That's what's important. And when they see that person, it's so beautiful to watch the value of that relationship play out in their emotions.
It's so true. So why do you think that people should definitely watch this season of Survivor?
Well, if you're a fan of the show, we've knocked it out of the park again. And I say that humbly, we never know if we're able to do it again, but every season you think, how are we going to top the last one? How are we going to figure this out? How are we going to make it a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that? And I think it's because we're such fans of the game ourselves that we figure out, what would we like to see? What would we like to do next? What would we like to see in the next season of Survivor? And Leroux, our series director, is behind a lot of the concepts in every season of Survivor, and he does a great job of preempting what he thinks the fans want to see. And I think he's hit it, he's nailed it every single time, and he's done it again this time with the collective creatives that work with him on producing and creating the show. He's a great mind behind where we should go creatively. And I think, once again, Leroux, you've done a phenomenal job. I love you, brother. And we're all fans of the show, so we know that when we've managed to get something good. So I know what's in the can. I know what we've shot, and I know what the edits look like. So I know that the fans are going to love what we've done. So I'm really excited. It's not a case of going, wow, I hope they'll like this or that. It's a case of going, I just know they're going to love it, and I'm excited to see that happen. Why should people tune in? If you've never seen, if you love Survivor, it's going to blow your mind. If you're a super fan, you're going to be thrilled at the new twists that we've thrown at them. If it's your first time watching and you're a new fan of the show, you're a lucky person. You've got so much to catch up on in the other seasons we've done, and then you've got this season. And if you're just popping in to come and see what all the fuss is about, well, you better free up your Thursdays, because you're going to want to come back again and again and again, because it's such an amazing show, and it's a humbling privilege to be part of it. So,
did you watch Survivor Winners at War?
Of course.
So what did you think of Tony?
I can't help but to love Tony.
Yeah.
I love him. I think he's incredible. He's got this energy. I don't know what he eats that the others do. Okay, he hides food. We know that. But I mean, there's got to be some sort of berry that only he knows about, that he fishes out there somewhere, that gives you a certain kind of, energy, because he's got this wild manic energy, but he's very, very focused on what he thinks. And
really,
I tell you what, when he's cornered is when he's at his best, because that's when his most incredible Survivor tactics have come out, when he's cornered. And you got to love the guy. I mean, he's such a likable person, and you just cannot get him down. Nothing gets him down.
Excellent. Yeah. I think I was floored by him in that last season.
Yeah, he's amazing. He really is. He's amazing. As I say, he's got this infectious energy, and we have someone in the season. I'm not going to say anything, but you'll see what I mean. We have someone equally paranoid and crazy. Let's see where it goes, where the game goes. But it's wonderful to watch someone like that, because I think that's what it's about, is that you just cannot get him down. You can't break his spirit. He'll find a way. Some people they've got an idea, and then they try this, and then it gets thwarted, and they're like, oh no, that didn't work, and they try again, and then by the third time they're like, I'm done, I'm broken, this is vote me out. Whereas Tony's the kind of guy, he will get up 1,000 times and then again, but he won't stop until someone says, buddy, the game it's done. And so I think that's really a wonderful characteristic, and it comes out in a likable way, because it could also very easily turn him into a villain, right? So he's managed to play that likable almost villain, in the way that he goes about the game.
So what do you think is the balance between playing a social game and a physical game?
Oh, it's much more than just those two. There's so much. There's the social, there's the physical, then there's the metaphysical, the spiritual part of the game, which is one of the three main pillars of playing this game is what goes on inside. And I always tell people, you must realize that we're in the first world. We're so used to distraction. We're used to phones, mobiles, laptops, a book. If we're bored, standing in a queue, you whip out your phone. Someone goes to chat to someone else while you're at a bar or restaurant. You whip out your phone to see what's going on in the world. So we're used to distractions. We're not used to sitting in our own minds with absolutely nothing to do but reflect and talk to ourselves. So we've got to get comfortable up here. So I think it's an equal balance, an equal measure, but at different times the the gravity of each pillar increases or decreases depending where you are in the game. And from the get-go in the game of Survivor, you've got to play a very strong social game, because that sets you up for later on. And you need to build strong, truly trustworthy alliances. A lot of people build those superficial alliances, those fall apart. So you need a couple of really strong alliances. No one plays this game alone all the way to the end. Very few people manage to do that. So you really do need others, and you need to figure out who those are very quickly. So your instincts get switched on, get lit up right from the get-go, because you start listening not to what people say, but how you feel around people. It starts becoming a lot more about a discernment, a spiritual discernment even, about people around you, and that energy that we've, that maybe some of us have, let me say this in the right way. I think we rely so much on what people put out on the surface, and we've stopped listening to the in-betweens, the nuances of what people put out. And I think it's very important for us to listen to one another's nuances. I think those are much truer than the facade we have in front. And if you're lucky, the facade in front is a reflection of what's going on inside. But I think this world is so noisy and crazy and chaotic at the moment that it's difficult. And so if we can learn to listen to the nuances that we give out as human beings, we'll be able to communicate better with one another. Now, this is what happens when you're in a primal situation like Survivor. All of those layers, all of those facades are broken away very, very early on in the game, are removed. And what's left is that inner strength and that inner reflection of yourself. It's a much clearer, much easier to read. And they start reading one another much clearer than you would in the real world. And what happens is you pick up very quickly when people are insincere, but you also forge bonds there with people that remain for the rest of your life.
And yeah, definitely. And it also goes back to what you say, like the contestants that succeed are the ones who are willing to adapt. And not even just to the game that changes, but willing to adapt to whatever the game requires of you, whether it be social, whether it be, your own metaphysical or whatever.
Indeed. Absolutely.
So here at like IGN, what IGN's crashing on, we talk a lot about celebrity crushes. And I just wanted to ask you, how does it feel that an entire generation's first crush was George Kiriakis?
I'm not sure how true that is, but yeah, I made a piece with the fact that George Kiriakis is the name I'll carry with me for all time to come, and I love the guy. I mean, it's been such a while, such a long time. Every now and then I'll see a clip of it somewhere. Someone will have it, as part of something that we'll do, and someone will play the clip, and you'll see it, and you'll be like, "Oh my word, that's a lifetime ago," But most of the ex-Laan actors from that first era, I think we've just celebrated 20 years, 25 years. Most of the actors from that first era will all agree that we were our strength in the entertainment industry was forged back in those days, because we worked under such stringent in such a stringent environment. It was so difficult. You had so much dialogue. You had to learn it. You got it a couple of days before you filmed. You shot an episode a day, and it was rough. It was crazy, and we had huge storylines, and so you hone your teeth, your actors' teeth. In the trenches, and we learned so much about the industry there. And when we started out in Laan, it was still very much old school theatre discipline as well. You don't come to set without your words intact, so you had to figure that out. We had to be super aware, anyone who's done soap, you had to be super aware of your light all the time. Am I casting shadows? You had to turn to camera on a certain word, so you had to have all these things going on in your head, and then you had to try and act a little bit as well. So if you survived soap and you've gone on to do film or series or whatever else you do, nothing is ever again as hard as those years. So I love playing George Kiriakis, and I think George had a wonderful life. I mean, this guy was, he was apparently quite well off, and he got to kiss some of the prettiest girls in the country.
Your wife being one of them.
Of course, the prettiest one being my wife, who I'm still with, thank the Lord, and who incidentally I met before Laan. We actually met in drama school. So a lot of people think we met on Seminar. We actually met in drama school, and we're still together 21 years later. What a blessing.
Perfect. Like, I wanted to say that we actually like asked people on Twitter, who is your first South African celeb crush? And we got George. Well, we got you, but mostly George. So many times.
My word. Oh, that is so sweet. That is so
also,
very, very...
Also your wife.
Very humbling. Yeah. Very humbling. Well, lots of love to every single one of those people. I loved George as well. I enjoyed playing him, and I always had fond memories of him. A couple of his wardrobe items I would have liked to have changed. You know, there was a lot of velvet. There was a lot of velvet that there shouldn't have been. I want to apologize for that. But I really enjoyed my stint. It was I think a good 5 years that I spent there, you know, and that'll set you up for a life in the business.
But Nico, thank you so much for this. This was lovely. I'm so excited to watch tonight.
Thank you very much for your time, and I'm so excited for people to watch the season of Survivor. I don't have to punt it. It really just sells itself. It's such a great show. And to get to do another one, regardless of you know what happened in 2020, is a blessing for all of us. It's such a big show. It's very expensive. It's a lot of logistics. And so every time we get to do one, we say, God, thank you that we could do another one. We love it so much. It's such a blessing to everyone involved. And then, of course, to our audiences as well. So I just hope you guys enjoy it as much as we love making it.
That was our interview with Nico Panagio. You can watch Survivor SA on Mnet or on DSTV now. Catch up. And this is a great season. There's been 2 episodes so far, and they cast the season perfectly. There's so many characters. It's just funny. It is compelling. I don't know what's gonna happen next, who's gonna go, the blind sides. Oh, I'm loving it. So yeah, check it out. It's really good. You can catch up on the episodes that pass on DSTV catch up, and then watch on Thursday nights on Mnet. Thursday night at 7:30. So now it's time for our favorite segment of the show, Rebecca. What have you been crushing on this week?
Well, I mean, the last time we actually did this was a while ago. But the last thing I watched was obviously the Friends reunion, which is a little outdated now because we talk about it now. But that was it brought me to tears, so I was crashing on that. But also I've been watching something called Feel Good. I don't want to talk about it though.
Okay.
I've been watching Crashing with Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Is that her name? Phoebe Wallace.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
And at first I thought, okay, nothing's as good as Fleabag, but then I gave it a chance for the second time, and I actually did enjoy it.
Okay.
What have you been watching?
So one thing I've been watching. So I watched Bo Burnham's Inside. Well, he's a comedian, and it's like it's a piece he did during lockdown, but it's like songs and comedy bits and stuff. But it's more than that. It's more just like an experimental film, and like there were parts that I laughed at and stuff, but there was just like this jerking feeling in my stomach when I was watching it. And what he essentially like spoke about, or what the show sort of like represented, was like this constant need to create content. And like for us who are content creators, like especially during lockdown where everybody was like making stuff or doing things, the constant need to create and to do things can actually lead you to your edge, because you feel like you're going to die if you're not going to be creating something. And it sounds actually really sad, but it was eye-opening. It was funny at parts. It was lovely. It was just so interesting, and the way his mind works always like I find it so compelling. So that is definitely a recommendation. But like on the other end of the spectrum, I read this book, The Hating Game. So Shamiz, on her episode, she recommended this, and so I was like, oh, I just need let me just try this book out. I saw it somewhere, and I was like, hey, let me buy it and try it out. And it's like a very rom-commy romance book. But I'm not telling you a word of a lie. I started reading it at 10 o'clock because I thought, 8 o'clock because it was going to be load shedding. And I was like, let me just start this book. Finish it at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've never read a book that fast in so long. But
Wow.
But it's like, when they're like, it's a couple and you're just waiting for them to get together. So you're like, I gotta read till they get together. And then it's like, So if you're looking for a quick read, an easy romantic read, like rom-com read, it's very popular. Like lots of people have read it and spoken about it, but it's called The Hating Game. So that's all from us this week. Don't forget to follow the podcast on YouTube at What's IGN Crashing On. Catch us again soon. The podcast can be found at Crashing On Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can find more information about this and all our other episodes at our website, crashingonpodcast.com, and send any feedback to crashingonpod@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group, Crashing On Club, where we chat about the show, celebrity news, recommendations, the whole shebang. Let us know what you think about what was discussed in this week's episode by sending us a voice note or email to crashingonpod@gmail.com. The show is produced by me, Caryn, and Rebecca Barches. The show is edited and engineered by Rebecca Barches. Our logo was designed by Nathifa Maroof. And the show was created in partnership with IGN Africa. If you like the show, tell everyone that you can any way that you can. Keep up to date with all our episodes by subscribing to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please rate and review the episodes on Apple Podcasts, as it helps others find the show. We'll be back next week with another in-depth conversation with a pop culture lover. See you then!